Essex Market is the first new public market that New York City has built in probably about 80 years.
I think Essex is a great market, and I think it's positioned to be, a world-class market that people from all over the world will come to see.
All of the uses and mix of programs that we love in the city come together on this site, and the heart of it is the Essex Market. My name is Dana Getman. I'm a principal at Shop Architects in New York City and was the lead architect for the master plan and the design of the Essex Market.
My name's Hugh Boyd. I'm an architect. I have my own company, Hugh A. Boyd Architects. We're based in Montclair, New Jersey, and we basically do markets.
My name is Robert LaValva, and I am a urban planner, and I have worked as a consultant for New York City Economic Development Corporation.
Every city in the U.S. had at least one market in the downtown.
And when the growth of the city had reached this neighborhood, the Lower East Side, in 1818, the city built a public market and called it Essex Market.
They started putting just an open roof against it to protect it during the rain, and then slowly they became enclosed.
Essex Market was 4 buildings, and there were close to 500 vendors. Through the evolution and the birth and evolution of supermarkets, somehow these old public markets in New York City, a few of them like Essex Market, managed to hang on. Essex Market was known as a place, I guess, sort of a foodie destination of its day.
Did a lot of research into other markets around the city, but also around the world, what was successful about them, what people loved about them. And one of the key things was the space itself.
The shape of the building really dictates what the market will lay out as.
We wanted to have something that reflected the importance of the Essex Market in the Lower East Side community. One of the main priorities was that everybody felt comfortable in the space, that the vendors were able to come here, move all of their wares, and feel like this was their new home, and that the community that has been going to the market for decades also felt like it was their new home.
To do everything possible to keep the market very much a food ingredient market as opposed to a food court. It conveys a feeling of sanitation, which is important when you're selling food.
So we kind of went to a very European style case, a lot more glass and so forth.
Even though it is an enclosed space, it is contiguous with the street, the sidewalk, and the neighborhood.
It's also very transparent, very open. The old building was like a brick shed. You couldn't see inside of it. Many people walked by it and didn't even know there was a market inside.
It just shows your product off. And the reality is, if your product looks good, you're going to sell more.
It brings more people to the site, becomes more woven into the neighborhood.
People, when they're walking by, could see into the market hall, see all the great things taking place.
All these things help attract people indoors.
We try to have a major entrance off all the major streets and major intersections.
Essex Crossing is a master plan development that was an RFP put out by the City of New York, specifically the EDC, or the Economic Development Corporation. The new market is at the heart of the master plan of the Essex Crossing, which is really where it should be.
I think the tricky part about Essex was there were so many functions taking place above it.
Above the market is the Regal Cinemas, which is another exciting program and brings people to the site.
It makes for a game trying to balance out where all these utilities go and still make the market function properly.
So the underside of the seating rakes of the theater was unused space, so we could use that to create the vaulting for the market below. We did get to have some fun was with the ceiling itself. We really looked to a mix of some of the great market halls of Europe as an influence for the lighting, but for the shaping itself, looked at New York City. Because these buildings are sizable, we had access to great roof space. So we purposefully located the residential that was above the Essex Market on a tower on the northwest corner so that we could open up as much roof space as possible. And right now, Project Eats is on the roof level with a green roof, with gardening for fruits and vegetables that are sold in the market, and also directly accessible from the market through a shared common elevator. Below is the market line, which connects to the Essex Market and also to adjacent sites to really start to weave the programs through the neighborhood.
The ground floor is really the valuable space, and so I always try to maximize the selling area on the ground floor.
I thought it was really important to keep this a place where people go shop to buy food to bring it home and cook, because that really is the essence of a market.
Pretty much all laid out like city blocks, with main streets, cross streets. All the space is basically rectangular. It just makes for a more efficient space that way.
It was really a focus of ours to provide a market that was safe, healthy, but also a place that really could expand its seating and public space for people of the neighborhood to enjoy time in the market.
You have the real core vendors, kind of taking up the prime spaces, and then woven into that are the prepared food vendors. We've located the meat and seafood vendors against a solid wall, so basically the public's not looking at the back of all that equipment. And as long as the circulation kind of creates the flow that causes the public to go around most spaces, then they do fine.
Also that we put numbers on the signs to indicate which stall you were in. You just follow the numbers and you realize that you can find your way there pretty easily. If you look at the old markets of New York, you'll see that they had these same kind of numbers.
The vendors will totally personalize their own space. They'll cover up the walls with paper signs and pictures of their family.
It's meant to be a framework so that the vendors' personalities come out.
They'll take possession of the market from a personality point of view. And it's great that so many of the vendors are still here. I mean, that's absolutely amazing, actually, in today's small food vendor world.
Small family-run businesses who've been here for a long time, who sell very affordable ingredients, ethnic products like Caribbean produce and fruits.
Just talking to the vendors, their sales are way up, and they've hired a lot more employees.
The wares, the fish, the meat, the flowers, that really becomes the visual of the market.
And all of these vendors, as well as others, cater to a different demographic that maybe wasn't coming to the old Essex Market. And I think it was a great opportunity to be able to help the market grow and bring in new types of vendors and new customers as well.
So there's a personal connection between you and the customer. I think they bring a care and attention and a sense of quality better than even some of the best run supermarkets can do. In many ways, it was great working with a whole bunch of existing vendors. They were very responsive, very open-minded about being kind of reconfigured into new spaces.
We squeezed everything as tight as possible to maximize the amount of open space and public seating we could get.
We created this mezzanine with all the seating and the demonstration kitchen and so forth, was to really have all the square footage as possible down on the ground level.
By lifting the seating above, you're not compromising the amount of vendors you could have. The mezzanine is one of my favorite spaces in the project because you get to float above the market and really see all of the exciting things happening.
You have such a great viewpoint overlooking the things going on below. That's just a great place to sit and spend a couple hours while you're snacking on a muffin or having lunch or having a coffee.
It's just like a park or a plaza, but it's inside, and anyone can come here and anyone can sit down.
The demonstration kitchen was another key part of the program. We located on the mezzanine after coordination with the EDC because of the uses that they wanted to have in here. Community programming, kitchen demonstration. So the driver was really trying to get those spaces large enough that you could have a range of scales of events up here.
I focused on bringing in some elements to the new market that represented the old market. One of the old Essex Market buildings had a neon butcher's sign from the 1940s that was in disrepair, but somehow miraculously had managed to survive and hang it back up in the new market. Typeface designer Tobias Jones looked at the old neon sign and from the lettering created a whole new typeface based on that lettering. It was then used to create the name Essex Market as a brand or as a logo and signage throughout the market. This element from the past has been reinterpreted for the present and has given the market a new identity.
I just think these markets are a great business opportunity for small businesses to hopefully thrive.
It turned out that the new building has been great development for the vendors and for the community.
And it's also where people can stay, can hang out, whether it's kids after school, parents, anybody can come here and stay.
These are small details that help make the market feel like a place of activity where you engage with the vendors, where you're not just picking stuff off the shelves.
I think the biggest advantage for having this new market versus the old market was that was all solid walls. No one ever knew about the fun and activity that was taking place inside the market hall, and now everybody can see it.
Great to know that the city can be providing these public spaces for its residents. It really is a place for everybody.
We really worked closely with Hugh Boyd and with the EDC to make sure that the space was maintainable for a long term, because this is going to be hopefully a very well used and very well loved space.